And here is our next project. So this is our understair closet that we did not know we had until we actually started building the house. So everything that we saw with the model home and stuff was just that, about right here, just deep enough to put coats in. And we thought that was it. And when we built the house, they built this thing. And that's why it has carpet in it, because we didn't know that we could put hardwood floors in here and they wouldn't let us change it once we did. So anyway, this has been a kind of storage for more delicate stuff, holiday stuff, sports stuff, all kinds of stuff. Don't lock a cat in your closet by any chance. That's bad for the floor. So a couple things. I'm going to take this out because all it does is hit your head on it. I'm going to take the carpet out because we're eventually just going to put hardwood in here as well to match the rest of the floor in the downstairs. And then if you go in the back, kind of curves around and we have a little space. So it's 41 inches or so across roughly. It's not exactly perfect, right, because people made it, but it's close. Anyway, so I'm going to put some shelves on at least 3 of these, maybe the 4th one unknown. And I'm just going to bolt them, have them come out, and I'm going to bolt them to the bottom of the stair there, and that will give us some shelves. And then the rest of it, we're going to store different kinds of crates and boxes and totes and things like that. And so this is kind of just about the weirdest space that you can try to organize, because it's curved on 2 sides and at an angle in the back, and it should be interesting. So we're going to work on the shelves today. And the rest of it we'll figure out as we go. Okay, people, here is the problems we are dealing with. So most of this is the contents of that closet that I'm working on. As you can see, it's all kinds of stuff. Most of these represent problems that we are trying to solve, and we're solving them different ways. So we have storage for plates and things, for crafts. Got my wife's candle making back there. All kinds of things that need to be put into this closet while we can still access it. We got totes down here, all kinds of stuff. So this is what I'm working with. It's kind of jumbled right now. I've already started doing work. And what we're doing in there is we're just trying to find a home for everything where we can access it very simply, very easily without having to move stuff. So that is the entire goal of this project. Okay, so stay tuned. Let's go through the progress so far. So let me back up with zoom here. So sports storage is pretty much done. We got balls, we got gloves, we got tennis rackets, we have a baseball bat. Cup storage is done. Why do you need this many cups? Well, if you've ever bought cups from Lowe's, or not Lowe's, but Home Depot, not even Home Depot. If you ever bought it from Sam's or Costco, you get a bunch. So we have baskets that I decided to use for the storage for our paper plates and stuff. Got more down here to put up. I'm going to put some wreaths up at the top here. Over here we have some, I don't even know what you call this. It's kind of netting. It's for making wreaths and things like that. So with that one, I put these brackets in and then screw those to the stair tread bottom, and then just put the stuff on top. And then those are 10 inches long, and I cut the shelf to be 8, and that way we would have a little bit of overhang so you can see what you had. And then these 3 things are what I did, where I just cut the wood and then bolted it to the bottom there. Now the problem with that is, as you can see with this one, this is the bottom of, you can't see my hand, this one is curved. That is the bottom of the stair because it's curved, it's not flat. So you kind of get that. So like I said, if you can see the screw holes, if I just bolt it to the bottom. I made these 12 inches, put 5 at the back for kind of like leverage, and then made the front stick out a little bit. It's thinner here, thicker over here. And I think I'm gonna have to redo that. So this is gonna be my wife's collection of stuff for candles. I had no ideas yet, so many cents. So some of these are empty, but a lot of them are not. So I'm gonna have to redo this one because I'm just totally out of space. And what I think I'll do is do the same thing I did, where I'll take the shelf off, put a bracket on both ends, probably one in the middle since it's kind of heavy, and then bolt it directly to it. And probably the same thing with this. Why I did this is because I didn't want them to be very deep to where, like here, you can't see what's back here. So that's why I did that, where it's kind of shallow. But on these, I think I'll redo it just to give me some more room. If this comes out a little bit, I'll be able to get all these bottles in there. But right now, I've got one. I just didn't know I had this many, and this is kind of the reason I'm doing it, just to make it clean up. So anyway, so let's talk about the shelves. As you can see, I totally redid everything. So the top shelf up here is original. So what I did here is, since this is half an inch plywood, I had to use a bolt instead of a screw to screw through it, because basically there's just not enough material to do that. So those black protrusions are actually screw protectors to keep you from banging your head or whatever, you're cutting your hand or whatever it might be. The rest of them, I use these, you can see it there, there we go. I use these shelf brackets from Off the Bench. He has a new YouTube channel, and these are actually some of the best designed shelf brackets that I've seen. I really like the way they did it, so I've just printed off tons of these things for various projects for both the house and the shop. So I went with those, and he had a technique, what he showed, of actually attaching them from the top, which is what I did. Now you are losing a little bit of space here, so when I went from securing it to the bottom to putting 3 brackets in, I did 3 so that would be safe, right? Because I don't want anything dropping and breaking. So the cool thing about that is it fits exactly my requirements with just a little bit of space left over, but not much. So, but then that caused other problems where I had to move things around. So, like I said, I really like this way of doing it. I really like the way it was. I had it where I bolted to the bottom, but I lost half an inch of space. So that's really what the problem was. So I did this. It's a little bit better looking because, again, I think this was a shelf, or that one, where it curved, and it literally, since I bolted the shelf to the bottom, the shelf curved as well, which didn't look good, and I was afraid it might have some issues later on. So this is just some M4 bolts that just go through, and they got a nut on the top, and that's pretty much it. So these were pretty easy to do. I did put edge banding on everything because I just don't like see plywood. So anyway, so that's what I did on the shelves. As you see, I did put one extra down at the bottom that I had talked about. That one I kind of fitted a little bit better to the shape. It was a nightmare though. That's why I didn't do it on the first ones, because it was just too much work, and I just didn't want to spend half an hour per shelf drawing and cutting and comparing and drawing and cutting and comparing. So, which is what had to happen for that to happen. So anyway, so that's how the shelves turned out. I think these look great. The third shelf that I put down here is perfect. It's got a lot of weight on it. It's kind of got a little bow, but I think it'll be okay. But other than that, that's what the shelf project looks like. So we got 4 shelves in here where we didn't have shelves before, and I think that's a really good use of space. So let's talk about the bottle storage. So everything that I got, besides the one or two things that I actually created myself, I got off Maker World. So models already out there, really well designed. Now they do take up a lot of filament. Like I said, I pretty much, between my cup storage and this, I think I used 2 entire spools of the dark blue PLA from Overture, which is my new favorite color. Anyway, so what I had to do, and we'll cover this on the computer in a minute, is I found something that fit exactly or fit close. And then what I did is I just either expanded it, basically made it bigger or made it smaller, so that I could make sure that the bottles fit in. So I think this one I had to go up a little bit. This one I had to go down. I think this one was fine. But I think I used a total of 3 different models here from 2 different makers to make that work. And then one of them, which I'll show here in a bit, is by the time I expanded it to the size I need, which was probably this one, it was too big to print, because I just have an A1, so I've got 256 by 256 to put it on. It was too big, so what I did, I literally brought it in Tinkercad and cut part of it off, and then exported it, and I was on my way. So let's go cover those techniques, because they're kind of interesting, and just using a standard STL model and modifying it within Bambo Studio, and in one case, Tinkercad. So let's go do that. So one of the coolest things about Maker World is they've added a functionality to where people can upload generators. So instead of a static model, they have the ability for you to customize and create your own models just by entering some parameters in. And they do that using the OpenSCAD application that they've built in. So if you don't know what OpenSCAD is, it's a free open source code product that lets you programmatically create a model. So you have a programming language and you type it in and things, and then basically you put in parameters and whatever, and it will actually draw the code for you, create the code, and that's what they did here. So these two sets of bins came off of one, and I'll have it again in the links that I'll share. But this is the same exact application, and I just said, okay, for this one, I need one that's 160 mil by 160 mil by whatever height it was, the default, I think, which is like 25 or something like that. That took, a couple, 3 hours to print. This one I did two of, and I just printed one out, and then they stack, as you can see, I just printed one and hit reprint. So again, I just went in and said, okay, here is what I'm storing. I need something that big, and then I just went and did it. So I'll cover that here in just a minute as well. But anyway, I just want to show you what they look like in place. I've got a bigger version of this one for some other things that we're storing. These are candle wicks. So I need something for that and for some labels. So that is on the printer as we speak, and then we will be done with that. So let's talk about the sports storage. So I went out, and first thing I did is go to Make a World. I'm like, I need to store tennis rackets. And I found 10 models, if not more. And I just found the one that I liked that would probably be the best job for me. And I just got it and printed it, and that's all I did. So I did well with all of these. So this is just the coolest thing ever. That's what I love about this community, is there's almost always somebody who's created something that you haven't. So baseball bat, tennis racket, ball, and as you can see, I've stored all kinds of balls. It was made for basketballs of a certain size, but the way the guy designed it, it's just perfect for just about anything. The baseball glove holder, that was an unexpected find. I thought I was going to have to do that myself, but sure enough, somebody had already beat me to it. And so that's all it was. It's just, doing a little bit of searching, either starting on Maker World because, it kind of integrates directly with Bambo Studio, or go out to Things or Thingiverse or wherever you're finding your models, and just, go and look to see if you can find something that will fit. And in most cases you can, and that saves you lots of time and trouble. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I had these wreaths. So these are that's a fall wreath, and these, of course, are Christmas wreaths. And I needed a way to store them. I found something I thought would be really good to print them all out, and then I found something better. And it just happened to be released literally like a couple days ago. Printed one out, and it worked perfectly. So I just printed out enough for everything and just went that direction. So there's almost always a solution to everything that you're trying to do. You just got to find the right version that's going to fit for you, and that's how I did that. So the original version basically had a little rope, and you tied around it, secured it, and it worked perfectly fine. And I'm like, I'm going to get on a ladder to get those. What I did is I went, bought me a grabber, printed me a 3D thing print to hold the grabber, and now when I need this, I just go up and grab it, pull it down, and when we're done, put it back up again. So that's how we do that. So again, 3D printing to the rescue. So let's talk about excess. Did I need to 3D print a giant thing to hold my cups in? Probably not, but my deal was I needed it to fit right there. Nowhere else, right there. So I had a few inches between the door jamb and the wall, and then I knew I needed to store some solo cups, or in this case, any kind of cup. And I'm like, the only way I can do that is if I design the model myself. And that's what I did. Now, this takes up it's not optimized. I will tell you, to be perfectly honest, it takes up a lot of filament. Somebody could probably take and do a much better job. But anyway, so I just printed several different variations of it. That's kind of what you see as me experimenting. So I didn't want to throw the prints away because there's nothing wrong with them. And then I finally ended up with this kind of big massage wreath, which is 250 mil high, which is almost the height limit of the A1. And there we go. But again, it did everything I wanted to do. So yeah, so sometimes you just got to make your own thing. And then the more you practice, the better you get and the better you are at it. So we'll put this up on Maker World as soon as I have time. Okay, we're in Bambo Studio, and I've downloaded one of the models that I use for this, and we're just going to take a look at it, how you can customize this to make it fit. So one of the things that I was doing was trying to figure out how big these holes are. So if you just select the model and then use the measuring tool, and you can actually select different parts of it. And what we're looking for is this round thing that's really hard to get a hold of for some reason that I don't understand. But basically, if you move your mouse in just the right position, you'll see this circle here. That's what we're after. So that is 52.005 millimeters, which is great, but we need 48. So how do we get to 48? Well, we get to 48 by scaling it. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale it backwards. We're going to leave the uniform scale button clicked so that it will actually scale all three axes at the same time. So let's go to 90%. Okay, so that moved it down. So let's go back to our measurement tool, find our little circle thingamajig, and now we're at 46. Okay, so we went too far. Go back up here. Let's go to 92. And there's probably a scientific way to figure this out, but I don't know that scientific way. If you know that scientific way, but leave it in the comments. And what I need is that thing again. Come on, you can do it. That's 47, so we are close with that. So let's go up to about 95. And then we'll go to measure. Okay, almost there, 47.884. So let's go. You know what? It did not take my thing. Now let's try it. $49, so that gives us 1 millimeter spare. That is perfect. So I'll just save this out, I'll print it, and then we're going to be good to go. And we can print it out and make sure it will go. Now this is a big model, so if I slice this, let's see, make sure I'm using my overture. Okay, it's going to take almost 12 hours to do this. This is the problem with some of these models. It takes forever. So that's what I can't remember if I said that. It says my printer ran for days printing all these things off. So anyway, so that's how you resize somebody else's model to fit the requirements that you had. Okay, so we're still in Bambo Studio here, and let's go the opposite direction. So now let's say that we need something that is bigger than where we were. So let's go scale it back to 100%. And you'll notice it just barely fits on the 256 cubes plate. Okay, almost too big. In fact, my printer sometimes it doesn't like that front edge, so sometimes I have to put brims on this to make it hold on tighter. Okay, so let's go up to 120%. Okay, so how big of a circle does that give me? Let's go measure that. So that's 62. That's good. I only have a 60 that I need. So we're going to do that. But unfortunately, as you see, we are no longer in control of our environment here. We are way, way past the size that we can use. So here's what I'm going to do. There is probably a way in here to cut this off. I haven't figured it out. Somebody knows more than me can probably tell you this. This is how I'm going to show you to do it because it applies to a lot of things. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to export this model into an STL. Export that. Call it test 2. And then I'm going to go over to a tool called Tinkercad. If you've never heard of Tinkercad, Tinkercad is the younger sibling to Fusion 360. It is actually written by Autodesk. It's intended for the educational audience. In fact, how I got into this is I needed to create something of my own, and I was too intimidated by Fusion, and my 9-year-old daughter goes, "Why don't you use Tinkercad?" "We do." And I'm like, well, if a 9-year-old can figure it out, maybe, just maybe, I can figure it out. Oops, wrong one. So let's go import our model, our STL file. And here is test 2. And I'm going to leave everything the same. Not change anything. Okay, so I have already set my workspace to be 256 squared. So that's how big we have. And as you can see, it is too tall. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to center this. Ooh, it's kind of big. We are going to make a couple of different modifications here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to move the place, not the model. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a box, another rectangle, and we're going to put the rectangle right here-ish. And these little dots here, if you've never played with Tinkercad, these little dots are the ones what help you go up and down in size, etc. Now, they're a little bit confusing because they're awfully close together at this small, so this will basically, I'm making it wider and taller. If I turn over, what I'm going to do is, is this what I want? I want this one. No, I want that. I want this one here. I want it to go all the way back, and then I want it to go up. Nope, other way. How about this one? Go up, so that I'm totally encapsulating part of that model. Now, I'm a little bit too far over, so I'm going to move it. It's about like that. Tinkercad has two different concepts. You have a solid and you have a hole. When you combine the solid and the hole, it will remove the hole from the solid. So we need to turn this into a hole, which you can do just by clicking hole. Then we need to select the other part of the model, which is the solid, and then we're going to group them together. And by grouping them together, it's literally going to delete the rectangle we just created from our model. Okay, so that took care of half of it. Now we need to go and we need to do the same thing, but we need to do it on the front here because it's still too large. So let me put it there. I'll go create another rectangle. I'll put it right there-ish. Okay, I'm going to go up. And I'm going to go over. I'll spin the model around a bit, and then is that the one I want? Yes, that. Go that way. Make sure I've totally contained that place. Next thing I need to do is I need to get a little bit closer, about right there. Again, turn it into a hole. At that point, at this point, you can actually see if it's going to be okay. I think that will. Is that too much? Too little? That may be a bit too much. Turn it back into a solid. Then I'm going to move. Oops, wrong way. I think that's it. Oh. Okay. Select my model, do a combine or group, and that will move one for the other. Didn't do it perfect, but you get the idea. Now what I do is I just do an export, and by the way, this is the name of the model. They come up with these random words they put together. When we export this, this is what it's going to look like. So we're just going to call this modified model. Export as STL. It'll write it back out where it found it. I go back into Studio, create me a new plate, do a file import.
So let's talk about the baskets that I bought. So my initial plan was actually to just make them out of plywood. I have some pre-finished, rather cheap plywood.
And there we go.
I was just going to make boxes out of and put up.
So that is how you make a model more accommodating to fit the contents you need to store inside of it in this case, and then trim it in both length and width so that will fit back on the plate. Now, like I said, you could, I think, use this and just use the cut tool and create some cut things. I think that would work as well. I'm not good at that, so this is just the way I did it because I was in a hurry. Anyway, I hope this helps.
Except for the fact, this cost me about $18. That sounds like a lot, and it's not totally $18, but my laser, which is the X-Tool M1, can cut roughly a 12 by 12 is the workspace, which is pretty much this. It's actually a little bit bigger than that, but picture this. This is one piece of plywood. Okay, these two and the bottom and this are like a piece and a half. So economically, it made no sense for me to do these, even though this would work perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with this at all. This costs roughly between $5 and $7, depending on how you buy them and which vendor you get them from. And they're probably all the same vendor. So I just did this out of economics. That's it. I would rather have made them because it would have been cheaper. Like I said, I already had the plywood, but then I realized, wait a minute, I am using almost 3 whole sheets of plywood just for a single box, and I need a bunch of boxes, and this is just more economical. So that's why I went with the prefab metal baskets. And then in all honesty, there's nothing wrong with this. They work perfectly fine, and they're probably more versatile than these, because this will sooner or later just fall apart. I mean, it's just held together with CA glue, but you know, if you bump into it too much, it'll do it. Plus this, you can see what's in it, and if you get dust or anything, it'll fall through, so etc. So anyway, so that is why I didn't go with you know, a homemade solution for that, because it's strictly economics, just so you know.
And we're done. So this has been an interesting journey. It turned out really, really good, more than I planned for, actually. We can actually still walk in there. We can put our vacuum cleaners in there. We can do all kinds of things. Most of my wife's storage for her candle hobby is in here, as well as other storage for the holiday stuff. So this turned out great. The cool side effect is when you're in here filming a video with the door closed and your wife sees you walk into a closet, close the door, and start talking to yourself, that makes for funny. Anyway, I appreciate you hanging out with me today and hope you learned something. If you got any comments about anything I did that I didn't cover, please let me know. I appreciate it. Have a great week. Bye-bye.